So here we are with build log part 3, because that looks like a 2, but it's 3. Build log part 3, the finished and complete version of the Manta ITX tower. I picked the white tower to go with, and I'm really happy with that Logisys light. It actually kind of blew my socks off, especially with the options and features that it has on the remote control, which I'll show you and we'll look at in a little bit. Now, I told in my last video I was going to be going with some white cable mod cables, and I was ready to cuss NCIX out for sending me the wrong thing. Turns out I picked the wrong thing because the one I wanted was out of stock. It's on back order. So enough of that. And we'll be sad that there's black cables in there right now, stock ones from EVGA. We'll get something else in there later, and I'll make it look the way I want it to look because that's important to me. However, we're going to get into build log part 3. I got some sweet B-roll footage of this where I'm just going to roll around and show it to you. Just some awesome upbeat music. And you can take a look at it and see if you think that I did okay with the AIOs and the bracket mounts in there. And we'll move on to looking at Firestrike, Furmark, Unigent's Heaven and Valley, and we'll do some tests with CPU-Z and kind of take a look at where we're at with that. So I can show you guys a little bit about what this particular machine can do, as well as at the end of it I'm going to link all the options that I can find, and we're going to use Newegg's Marketplace as the best place to look, because as far as any of these marketplace goes, anywhere from NCIX to Best Buy's Marketplace to any of them, Newegg just has the best structure, and we're going to be going off of that, and I'll put links to all the products that I used or particularly close to use in there for both the $800-ish range one and the $1,600-ish range one, depending on what your budget is. By the way, that price, even though there's a big difference in that price, you're still going to get the essence of the same machine following this guide. So anyways, stay tuned. We're going to get into it. I'm about to roll the intro video, and then boom, we're going to look at some pretty pictures and shots of this, and then we're going to go right into checking out some of the benchmarks and everything. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for sticking around and watching all 3 of these videos. We're going to move on to some other stuff and some more budget-oriented stuff for more budget-oriented people for the lower end, somewhere between $300 and $500, and build some really nice machines there as well. And we'll probably go Team Red for that, but this is Team Blue Intel, probably more upper line without being too far above. Anyways, stay tuned. Here we go. I know what you came here to do. Now bust it open, let me see you get loose. It's going down for real. Alright, so real quick, we're going to go over the little Logisys $17 LED strip you see in here strobing. I got it strobing because I thought that was nice. I'll probably typically keep it to the white color. Now this remote is pretty cool because you can pretty much pick from a wide range of colors, whatever you want. Like if you want some weird teal blue that looks pretty, you probably can't tell the difference on this camera. I didn't even think about that. But let's say you wanted red. You can go red. And what it does, it has a little sensor that I put in the top, and the top just kind of hopefully bounces around, reflects through the glass. So if I'm just sitting at my desk and I feel like, hey, you know what, I'm listening to some freaky dance music, we'll turn that on and boom, freaky dance music. I'll probably never do that because I don't want to have random seizures while I'm working in my office. But it's pretty neat. Now, I did mention that it's got flash and then it's got smooth. This is flash. And then that's smooth. It's like a slower flash. I don't really understand the difference. They probably could have come up with something better for that. But, you know, I have the option to turn it off, turn it on. It remembers what it was on. And I would definitely recommend mounting this somewhere in the top. But I just really wanted to quickly go over this because I was concerned that I was downplaying myself from getting the NZXT Hue based off of the fact that it might not have the best support on the SSD bracket. And on top of that, with the NZXT Hue, you actually have to open up the case to go in there and change stuff. With this, you have a remote. And a remote won me by far. So the one it was on was strobe, and strobe just kind of does this nice pulsing look. But like I said, I'll probably just keep it one solid color on my desk, and that's when it's on. And if I don't want it on, I will turn it off. So simply that. Alright, so getting right into it, we're looking here at Firestrike. I did run Unigen, Heaven, and Valley, and I did Furmark. I ran all that as well, but instead of just throwing a bunch of video together of me running benchmarks, I figured I'd run a definitive one that most people are familiar with, which is Firestrike. So I did run Firestrike. It scored just under 10,000, which I probably couldn't have asked for any better for what essentially is an $800-something computer right here. I did a lot of extra small things to it to give it what I wanted, which I'll show you here shortly. I also ran PC Mark 7 by 3D Mark, same company that does Firestrike, just for PC benchmarking. It's just a simple benchmark tool. It takes about 15 minutes to run it. I guess depending on your system setup, it was about 13 minutes for me. It's nothing fancy, kind of gives you the same sort of rundown on what you have in the system and how it performed, and scored just under 6,000 with that. Now, keeping in mind, none of this is overclocked. This is all just stock out of the box stuff. Even my liquid cooled 290X is back to stock. It's a power color. Manufacturer just took off the heat shroud and put the Kracken G10 on there and liquid cooled it. So this is my price comparison sheet, and I came up with about, and this is a rough guesstimate because this is subject to change daily. As you know, technology prices change with rebates and deals. $681 difference. You can essentially build the same machine I did for about $681 less if you don't want to go all fancy, liquid AIO, all that good stuff. So we'll move on from there, and I did build a list, and I used Newegg's Marketplace because I can find everything that I put into this on Newegg. So it was just easy to go there and consolidate it, and I had the idea that I would be able to link these to you on a shared public list, and I just couldn't get it to work right, so I kind of scratched that. But I did want to go ahead and take a picture and show a little bit of video of, I did build this for you in the cart to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. Like I said, all this stuff can be got there. This is the budget-oriented one, the one that's no frills, and then the next one that I'll show you will be the one that's more like what I built, with the exception of I used a 390X instead of a 290X because 390X is the market standard now. And you see it in there. I picked a MSI 390X, and I'll definitely post a link and some pictures. I'll post a link to all the stuff that I accumulated here, and some pictures of the price comparison charts I came up with so that you can do some of your own research, because none of this is definitive. You can, of course, pick whatever you want to do, go a little higher here, go a little lower there, and of course come up with your own ideas. If you have any questions, be sure to ask, and if I can help you, I'll definitely help you. If not, I'll try to point you to somebody who can. So that being said, I definitely want you to be knowledgeable about what you're looking at, and if I've done anything that looks wrong, let me know so I can go back and take a look at it. So anyways, this is just my mock-up right here of the Manta consumer build. And all I did was I essentially built the machine twice in there. So where the number 1 is over there to the left-hand side, that's kind of the more budget-friendly version of what I found on Newegg's Marketplace. And then I'll change that out, and I'll just kind of show you the prices and inventory that I had stockpiled and accumulated, and take out the budget one, and it's sort of the price difference. Now you got to keep in mind too, which I don't want to forget, I wrote it down on a sticky note, thermal paste, paint, things like that, you have to account into your budget. Your copy of Windows, whether you go to a gray market site like Kingwin or G2A and buy a copy of Windows for 20 bucks OEM edition, that's up to you. I'm not going to influence you one way or another. Most people are a lot more comfortable spending $100 to $140 for Windows off the shelf, and that's completely fine. Obviously, that's just really what Microsoft wants you to do anyways. But if you want to purchase an OEM key, you can shave off about anywhere from $100 to $80, depending on which version you get. And you can pick those up on gray market sites. If you go check out Paul's Hardware, he actually just went over using Kingwin and where he purchases his OEM keys. And he explains it a little bit there in case you're hesitant about it. So check out Paul's Hardware and look for his, I don't know what he called it, building his parents' computer, something of that nature. But he kind of goes over in a little bit of detail the OEM version of Windows keys that they sell. You're going to have to, of course, create your own ISO, which I think he even walks you through, but I didn't watch that far. No offense, Paul, sorry. Anyways, I just kind of wanted to show you guys, this is sort of what I came up with. I sat down for about 30 minutes and threw some product in and looked at prices, made sure everything was compatible. So this is just essentially me showing you where I found all this on Newegg and in my Excel program. So we'll move out of this here in just a second, because I'm sure I had more to say here, but it's just completely left my head if I did. Oh, wanted to go over the i5 6600 versus the i7 6700. You may have noticed in video 1 I kind of did a little bit of hate talk. Now the i5 6700K is a decent processor because you can overclock it and it's got a lot of power, but traditionally the sibling processors here have always had a large enough gap to justify the cost between them. And theirs is actually almost no gap, and if anything, the i5 6600 outperforms the 6700 on a couple levels. And I picked CPU Boss because they, stockpile these and accumulate them, and people discuss on them. And while I'm not saying the 6700 is bad, I just don't think it's worth the price compared to the 6600. Now, of course, some of you are out there probably considering, well, I want to be able to overclock, because I know Intel flexed their muscles and did away with the Non K edition overclocks on motherboard manufacturers. But, you know, the 6600 is a strong processor out of the box, and it beats the bigger brother, the 6700 Non K, out of the box. And we'll look right along. I had mentioned that I picked the 390X for the more enthusiast version of the build. This is the 290X and the 390X side by side. It's obviously a better card, but it's still close enough. It's about as close as you can get for the same price, and it's essentially almost a rebrand, but not, because they're using their new architecture in it. Well, anyways, guys, let's just, you know, thanks for sticking around first of all, but let's go over a few things real quick. I had an ID cooling fan in there that I got for like $8. I figured, sure, why not try it? But it wasn't able to maintain cooling on the radiator. I had to swap it back out for a Corsair fan, so that's unfortunate, but I did want to try that out, and it was just too bad. It was taking firmark up to 90 degrees on the GPU, so I went back to the Corsair fan, and my temperatures maintained anywhere between 60 and 65 through all of the benchmark tests. That includes Unigine, Heaven and Valley, firmark, and Firestrike. So moving on from that, I'm actually thoroughly excited about how this build came together. I enjoyed it a lot, and as soon as I get the replacement parts, because those cables were such a fail, then we'll get some pictures up and see how I can get it to look by the time it's absolutely, really, truly, completely finished. So just go over a few things. Don't forget your thermal paste. Don't forget paint to factor in these costs if you're looking at these build prices. Just make sure that you purchase them wisely. Do a lot of budgeting and shopping. Do a lot of budgeting and shopping. And see if you can find anything, maybe some good prices or rebates or special deals, you know, Google codes for manufacturers to see if they have anything on Reddit. These types of things will help you save a lot of money in the long run. It can be a pain to shop that way, but if you're on a dime, then that's probably the best way to do it. You can save hundreds. You really can, I promise you. Just look around and make sure you do some shopping. Anyways, thanks guys for checking it all out, and here we go into the outro.